Ruth Anderson here for a meditation a day. Today we have a very special guest meditator, Eileen Murray. It's when we're with her, it's just like we get to sit at the feet of a reverend, a minister, a master of this information. So today's meditation is called One Power versus Duality. Thank you so much, Eileen, for being here.
Thank you, Ruth. Hello, everyone. Well, as we know, the world is going through big changes. And I just felt this sense of needing to share my own journey with this and experience about we're born into duality. We're born into the human story. Behind the human story is our soul. And our soul and the spirit, the self, or the life, the pure life, is what we truly are. And we know that at a certain level. And what I'm inviting us all to be with today is to look more clearly from the self, as the self, to the programs and the beliefs and the thoughts that keep us bound and keep the self in the tomb, so to speak. We all know that we can think of right and wrong and good and bad. And all of that is in duality. It's in the human story. And who is it that's looking? Life changes. We go through stages in life. We can have children and they leave. Our roles change. That's all the movement of ourself in the expression of those experiences. But the self of us, the light, always remains the same. And the important thing is to realize within the pure consciousness, we're moving out of human consciousness to our true identity as divine consciousness, the Christ consciousness, God consciousness. That's what we are. That's the truth. The other comes and goes. It's experiences. And as we learn to abide as that light, that one infinite light, the qualities of that pure light are peace and harmony, joy and love, abundance. There's a spiritual substance, and that is the invisible. And we often go to visit it, but we're not necessarily knowing how to stay there. Because when we're in the invisible, in our essence, our true essence, there's no story to hold on to. There's nothing concrete. Love is a frequency. Peace is a frequency, an aspect of the divine, of our true nature. And with the changes that are happening and are going to continue to happen in the world, we can learn to abide and watch them as the light that we are. So in spirit, there is no illness. In spirit, there is no darkness. In spirit, there is no limitation. And as we realize that, we're realizing that as spirit, we're infinite. And we can watch and be present to someone or some situation in our life that is in duality, but we're being grounded in the light. And so we're being that presence. That's the one power. The one power doesn't exclude anything, but it isn't identified with duality. So it is in the state of allowing. So I invite you to close your eyes and bring your attention from the outer world, because the outer world is a projection of our beliefs and our convictions of where we're abiding at the moment in consciousness. And often where these programs of judgment can come up and say, oh, I shouldn't be like this, or this is happening and it shouldn't be that way. But what would happen if we made the decision moment by moment to realize I am that I am, that great I am the all. Feel that presence. Feel that spaciousness within yourself. I am this light. I am divine consciousness, Christ consciousness. That is my true nature. That's the truth. And as that truth, nothing can be added to it because it already is the fullness of itself. The I am of myself is the fullness of itself. And the fullness of itself expresses itself as me. The fullness of itself, it expresses itself as the dog, as the tree, as the one life, pure life appearing as the tree. And what happens in our conditioning, this light pours through, but it hits the beliefs, the limited beliefs, the limited programs of judgment, of disease, of lack, of storms, of earthquakes, of anything that is limited. And it gets squeezed down and we buy into it because it's a part of the world mind of what we've been conditioned to. And now we have an awareness that we can choose to look at that and realize that is not the truth of who I am. I'm not going to resist it. I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to fix it. I am, the I am, is being present to it. And as that presence, where there's injury, there is I am. If I am there, I am present everywhere. The I am is unlimited, and I am present to an injury. What happens to the injury? Just look and see. And breathe. And think of some situation in your life, in a relationship where it feels restricted. And see that presence and feel that presence if you can, being present to that limitation. Simply open as the presence. What happens? You're not trying to change it or fix it or get rid of it. And if you are, say there is a resistance to it, welcome up that pattern of resistance to the I am is present. And now let's look at some area in life where there's a judgment. This shouldn't be happening. That's in duality. That's a program of the mind, a conditioning of the world thought. And we bring that presence to that program of judgment. Welcome up the program. Just open to it and allow it to come up into the consciousness, into the field of the presence of the light. That's all we have to do, is accept the fact that this is who we are. This is the truth. The one power is present everywhere. And it's like a misqualified energy through the duality in various areas of life. The divine is all. So if there's illness, the divine is present there, right at the center of the illness of that program. And in the acceptance that the divine light is present right in the center of that program of disease or illness, what happens? And what happens then if in conflict, I'm right, you're wrong? This party says this, that party says that. What happens right in the midst of a conflict where the divine is present right in the center of that program of conflict? Don't think it with your head. Just feel the light being present right in the center. So what we're doing is realizing that right there in the light, as the light in the center is the light. And we're watching the qualities of what we've given power away to will dissolve. What happens when we, quote, see a polluted river, but decide not to give it qualities as God is all, the divine is all, and the all is the form? And as instead of seeing it in duality as polluted, what happens if we see it as the expression of the divine? The river is an expression of the divine. It is the one power operating everywhere, always. But it gets held back by our limiting beliefs and these programs that are running. What's important is not to judge ourselves about that. Rather, to see and to decide, this is a truth that I know. It's not becoming better, it already is. The fullness is already there. We've been hypnotized. And now we have the choice to decide, I don't want that anymore. So I ask you to open to the one infinite power, the one pure life that is the life of all form. And ask that one power to reveal itself to you. It's important that we have our own experience that comes from the self, not from the mind, but from the self. And we know this as a truth and ask to be shown what that is. And breathe. I had an experience of this last winter in a simple way, but the principle is the same. I was out with a group. We were walking at night in the winter and we had our headlamps on, and it was a mild evening, and I took my hat and gloves off and put my gloves in my hat and was carrying them. And then it got cool. So I was going to put them back on, and one of my gloves was missing. And my thought was, I've lost my glove. And I heard within, nothing is ever lost. It's just resting somewhere. And that's all the information I got. And I chose in the moment to accept that. And that's all. And we went on, and on the way back down the hill, the stars were out, and I just said, oh, look at that. Look at the stars. And one of the fellows said, oh, look right there. There's a glove. And it was my glove. And I was so shocked because there was no feeling. There was no sense of anything. And upon reflection, I realized the importance was when I heard that message, I accepted it. I thought, yeah, nothing is ever lost. That's it. So everything in the universe came together for me to stop, look up at the stars, for him to be beside me, and my glove was right to my right for that to happen. That's the one power working. And it's simple, but it's the same principle as if it was $1 million. We put the value on it, but it's the same principle. And sometimes we don't feel things, but we know a truth, and then we stay open and allow the greater mind, the infinite mind, to show us. The main thing is in the acceptance, because the mind can come in and say, oh, well, that doesn't happen, or that's just a frivolous thing, and we dismiss it. And so what we're doing now is learning to say, yes, there is one power, the one divine power that lives within all. And it is not the miracle that matters so much. It's the source. It's the acceptance of the self, of the Christ consciousness. The human consciousness is limited. The divine consciousness is infinite, is omnipresent everywhere, all-knowing and all-powerful. It is the one power operating everywhere. And we say yes to it. And as we meet our limitations during the day, we realize what they are. And we invite that infinite nature of who we truly are to be present to them, because we're not wanting to repress them or judge them. We're redeeming them. And notice how your body is resonating with this light, this presence, this truth. this new creation. Heaven is here. The new earth is here. Invisible. And can we stay open and empty enough to allow for its infinite wisdom to present what it wants to present for our own self and for the good of others? As we accept it for ourselves, it strengthens that as the grid of love and light everywhere. I am that. And I am grateful that I am that. And I am grateful that I have the awareness to see that you are that. And even if you can't accept it, I see that you are that anyway. I don't have to say anything. I see it. I see you. You with a capital Y. And that I am gives God glory. We're giving up suffering. And we're living and opening more fully to the infinite vitality of the life that is truth, that is everywhere. And breathe. And let us open to the infinite life of joy and peace and abundance. And just ask in this moment if there's anything from the light that wants to be brought into your awareness of the truth of who you are. I am that. The one infinite life. And bring your attention back. And when you feel ready, open your eyes.
Eileen, thank you so much. So much. I love your story of the glove. I have heard that before. And how does that play itself out, that concept, in other parts of life? Let's say somebody's really sick. Can we take it that direction?
Sure, we can. What we're realizing, Ruth, is the acceptance that who they are is not sickness. That sickness is a program. It's learning to identify what's truth, and sickness is a program. And we know miracles have happened, so we know things can change.
Mhm.
What we're doing is in our seeing the oneness of our own light as their light. There's the one infinite light that is perfect, and we can stay present to that. We don't have to talk to them about it. If they're not open, it doesn't matter, but we're holding that consciousness. We're holding them in their perfection of their essence, of their soul. And then we ask if there's anything you're meant to share or say or do, but there may not be. But in the holding of that speaks to their essence. Now, even unconsciously, they may accept it or not accept it. It doesn't matter. It's what matters is we're knowing that truth, that who they are. We often say, I am sick. Well, I am is not sick. So we're breaking our identification with the human story. The body is experiencing that, but that's not who we are. Do you see what I mean? We're breaking our identity from our humanness and how we talk and what we think to the truth. And the truth is There is no sickness. Like you hear people say, I am an alcoholic. You've had the experience of alcoholism, but you are not an alcoholic. You are pure consciousness, pure light. And that's the fundamental, deepest level of starting to break free from the limitations of all the conditioning from eons.
And
Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. And I appreciated the term the world mind because I
Mhm.
think that makes it tangible. The folks,
Yes.
oh, I get what that means.
Yes, because it's everywhere. I mean, it's what we've been taught in church and school and government and health-wise and everything. And it also helps us with when something is facing us or we see a tragedy, a so-called tragedy, we realize that's an experience but we don't have to identify with that. There was a beautiful story of a couple during the Second World War from London, and they knew who they really were. They knew they had their faith in God totally, and they knew who they were. And during the bombing, people were to be sent down to the bomb shelters, and they said, "No, we're not doing that. We're not called to do that. We're called to stay in our house." And we had faith, and all the bomb shelters got bombed, and they were fine. They were called to walk out in the streets and help people. Now, you can only be there when you're there in consciousness, but that's the identity of what we're called to in ourselves, in that knowing. That's who we are. And it's the stripping of all the conditioning of the mind, of fears and doubts and limitations. But it's also important to realize not to judge anything around it. If I'm not there in consciousness, I can't be there. But I can become aware of where I am and start to break the spell of the world mind that's been operative in my psyche.
And how does someone get the support to walk through that? I mean, for somebody to say, I would love to do that, Eileen, but I don't know where to start.
Well, there are people who, and different traditions that have lived that. So it's important to find what really resonates with you. Like, for instance, one of the fundamental teachers for me was, first of all, Lester Levinson. Jung, for one thing, worked with the transcendent in his psychology. Lester Levinson was another one. Joel Goldsmith for sure, because his whole thing in his experience was to realize his calling was not to improve the human story. It was to reveal the divinity, our divinity. And that's a big difference. And so those have been fundamental teachers for me. Lillian DeWaters, she has YouTubes. Marie Watts is another one. So they're starting with students who really feel that call. They call it from the ultimate. We're already there, and revealing that consciousness from the fullness. So
And
there are different teachers. Yeah,
that's helpful. If somebody wants to study with you, do you work one-on-one with folks?
I do. Yeah, mainly by phone. So people can contact me through my email, murray50@gmail.com.
Perfect.
I work with the new Akashic records, and they're working from that place of fullness already, of who we are, and realizing what we're not, because this is when we're breaking the identity, we're breaking that identity from the human story. That's the experience, but it's not who we are.
Yeah, and friends, I can tell you I have worked with Eileen personally, and she's life-changing. So please feel free to reach out to her. So Eileen, anything else that you would like folks to know about you before we go today?
No, not really. I just say we're all in this together, and I really feel with the times we're in, it's important that we identify with our true self and open to that and ask for help. If we ask for help, it's there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So, friends, thank you for being here at Enlightened World Network. If you'd like to see more of Eileen's work, please go to YouTube, Enlightened World Network, and in the small search engine, just type in Eileen. She's the only Eileen that we've got here at EWN. So take good care. God bless. We'll see you all soon.